Luna stared at the cream-colored envelope in her hands, her fingers trembling slightly as she traced the gold-embossed lettering. An invitation to the annual Blood Moon Ball, the most prestigious event in the Northern Territories. Her name, written in elegant calligraphy, seemed to mock her with its beauty. "This has to be a mistake," she whispered to herself, tucking a strand of mousy brown hair behind her ear as the pack's only orphaned Omega. Luna had spent her life in the shadows. She worked in the pack's library, organizing ancient texts and keeping to herself. The other wolves barely acknowledged her existence, except when they needed someone to ridicule or blame. Her small cabin at the edge of pack territory was as isolated as her heart. The invitation had been delivered by Thea, the Alpha's daughter, who had smirked when handing it over. "Don't forget to wear something appropriate," she had said, her eyes scanning Luna's worn sweater and faded jeans with undisguised contempt. Luna placed the invitation on her small wooden table and moved to the window. Outside, twilight painted the forest in shades of purple and blue. In the distance, she could see the pack's main house lit up with preparations for tomorrow's ball. The blood moon only came once every 50 years, marking the time when wolves were at their strongest and most primal. It was also traditionally when the Alpha King ruler of all 7 territories would make his rare appearance. "Why would they invite me?" Luna murmured, pressing her palm against the cool glass. The answer came in the form of hushed laughter outside her cabin. Luna's enhanced hearing picked up the whispers easily. "Can you imagine her face when she shows up in whatever rag she owns? The Alpha King will be there. He'll think our pack keeps pets instead of respectable wolves. Thea's idea is brilliant. Invite the pathetic Omega as a joke, then watch her humiliate herself in front of everyone." Luna's chest tightened as the voices faded into the forest. Of course, she should have known better than to believe. She was truly welcome. She returned to the table and picked up the invitation again, intending to tear it to pieces. But something stopped her, a flicker of defiance that had survived years of mistreatment. Why should she give them the satisfaction of breaking her? Why should she hide away while they laughed? With sudden determination, Luna walked to her small closet and pulled out a dusty wooden chest from its depths. It had belonged to her mother, who had died giving birth to her. Her father, unable to bear the loss, had followed soon after, leaving Luna alone in a world that valued strength and status above all else. Inside the chest lay a single garment, wrapped in protective cloth, a dress the color of midnight, adorned with tiny crystals that caught the light like stars. Luna had never worn it, saving it for a special occasion that she believed would never come. "Perhaps this is it," she said softly, lifting the dress. It was old-fashioned, but timeless, elegant in its simplicity. Luna spent the evening altering the dress to fit her slender frame. Her fingers, nimble from years of handling delicate manuscripts, worked the needle with precision. As she sewed, she thought about what awaited her tomorrow: the stares, the whispers, the laughter. But for once, she would face it with her head held high. When dawn broke, Luna had barely slept, but the dress was ready. She bathed in the stream behind her cabin, using the few luxuries. She allowed herself a bar of lavender soap and a vial of rose oil for her hair. Her wolf, usually quiet and submissive, stirred with unusual restlessness beneath her skin. "I know," Luna whispered to her inner wolf. "This is madness, but sometimes madness is all we have." As the day progressed, Luna's resolve wavered several times. She paced her small cabin, rehearsing responses to potential insults, preparing herself for the worst. By late afternoon, she had nearly convinced herself to stay home. Then a knock came at her door. Luna opened it to find old Mara, the pack's healer and the only wolf who had ever shown her kindness. The elderly woman's eyes widened at the sight of Luna in her mother's dress. "Child," she breathed, "you look like the moon herself." Luna blushed. "I shouldn't go. They invited me as a joke." "Oh." Mara's weathered face hardened. "I know. The cruelty of this pack knows no bounds." She reached into her pocket and pulled out a small silver pendant shaped like a crescent moon. "This was your mother's. She would want you to wear it tonight." As Mara fastened the necklace around Luna's throat, she leaned close and whispered, "Remember? Little one, even the smallest wolf casts a shadow when she stands in the light." With those cryptic words, the old healer departed, leaving Luna with a strange sense of purpose. She looked at herself one last time in her cracked mirror, the midnight dress hugging her slender curves, her mother's pendant gleaming at her throat, her usually dull brown hair now falling in soft waves down her back. For the first time in her life, Luna didn't see the pack's unwanted Omega. She saw a wolf with quiet strength, one who had survived despite everything. As twilight descended once more, Luna locked her cabin door and began the walk toward the main house. With each step, her heart pounded harder, but her resolve grew stronger. Let them laugh, let them mock. Tonight, she would show them that she was more than their joke. The invitation that was never meant to be kind had awakened something in Luna, flicker of the fire that her parents had surely possessed. And as the lights of the main house grew closer, that flicker threatened to become a flame. The Northern Territory's main house loomed before Luna, its stone facade illuminated by hundreds of lanterns that cast a golden glow across the gathering darkness. Music drifted through the open windows, the haunting melody of violins mixed with the steady rhythm of drums that mimicked a heartbeat. The blood moon ball was already in full swing. Luna paused at the edge of the clearing, her courage faltering. Wolves, in their finest attire, streamed past her, some in elegant suits, others in flowing gowns that shimmered in the lantern light. None spared her a glance not, yet recognizing the pack's Omega in her transformed state. "I can still turn back," she whispered to herself. But her feet carried her forward, as if possessed by a will of their own. At the entrance to Beta Wolf's checked invitations, when Luna presented hers, their eyes widened in recognition, followed by poorly concealed smirks. The Omega actually came. One murmured to the other, loud enough for Luna to hear. "This should be entertaining," the other replied, handing back her invitation with barely concealed disdain. Luna lifted her chin and walked past them, entering the grand hall that had been transformed for the occasion. Crystal chandeliers hung from the vaulted ceiling, casting prismatic light across the polished marble floor. Tables laden with food and drink lined the walls, while the center of the room had been cleared for dancing. For a moment, Luna stood, unnoticed, taking in the splendor. Then, like a ripple in still water, awareness of her presence spread through the crowd. Conversations halted, mid-sentence, heads turned, eyes widened. "Is that the Omega? What is she wearing?" Luna felt her cheeks burn as the whispers grew louder, but she forced herself to walk deeper into the hall, her back straight, her gaze fixed ahead. She would not cower. Not tonight. Thea, resplendent in a crimson gown that emphasized her status, as the Alpha's daughter, detached herself from a group of admirers and approached Luna with a predatory smile. "Well, well," she drawled, circling Luna like a shark. "You actually came, and in such an ... interesting outfit." Her eyes raked over Luna's dress with calculated cruelty. "Wherever did you find such an antique?" The garbage heap behind the human town. Laughter rippled through the nearby wolves. Luna's hands trembled slightly, but she kept her voice steady. "It was my mother's." "Ah, yes. The Omega, who died because she was too weak to survive childbirth. Thea's smile sharpened. Like mother, like daughter, I suppose. Weakness runs in your blood. Luna felt her inner wolf bristle at the insult to her mother, but before she could respond, the Alpha himself approached. Magnus, a towering figure with silver-streaked black hair and cold eyes, looked down at Luna with undisguised contempt. "I don't recall approving your invitation," he said, his deep voice carrying across the suddenly silent hall. Luna swallowed hard. "I received one, Alpha. I assumed it was with your blessing." Magnus turned to his daughter, who offered an innocent smile. "I thought it would be inclusive to invite all pack members, even the lowest." The Alpha's lips twitched with amusement. "How progressive of you, daughter." He turned back to Luna. "Well, since you're here, you might as well make yourself useful. The servers could use help in the kitchen." Fresh laughter erupted around them. Luna felt the heat of humiliation crawl up her neck, but she stood her ground. "I was invited as a guest, Alpha, not as a servant." A collective gasp rippled through the crowd. No one, especially not an Omega, contradicted the Alpha. Magnus's eyes narrowed dangerously. "Know your place, Omega." "My place is where I choose to stand," Luna replied, surprising even herself with her boldness. Her inner wolf, usually so submissive, growled in approval. The Alpha's face darkened with rage. "Your place is where I say it is. And I say let her stay, Magnus." Old Mara's voice cut through the tension. The elderly healer stepped forward, her simple gray dress a stark contrast to the opulence around her. "The blood moon is a time of unity for all wolves. Even you cannot deny the ancient traditions." Magnus scowled, but nodded curtly. "Fine, she can stay, but keep out of the way. Omega, the Alpha King, arrives tonight, and I won't have you embarrassing this pack." With that, he stalked away, Thea following after shooting Luna a venomous glare. The crowd slowly dispersed, returning to their conversations, though many continued to cast curious or contemptuous glances in Luna's direction. Old Mara squeezed Luna's hand. "Brave girl, but be careful. The night is young, and their cruelty has only begun." As if to prove the healer's words, Luna found herself increasingly isolated as the evening progressed. When she approached the refreshment table, wolves moved away. When she stood near the dance floor, conversations died. No one would meet her eye or acknowledge her presence, except to whisper behind their hands. "Did you see her challenge the Alpha? Uppity Omega. Someone should teach her a lesson. Just wait until the Alpha King sees her. He'll probably order her banished for her insolence." Luna maintained her dignity, though each barb stung. She sipped her drink slowly, watching the dancers twirl across the floor, their movements fluid and graceful. Despite everything, she couldn't help but be entranced by the beauty of the ball, the music, the lights, the rare moment of celebration in a life that held so few. Then Thea's voice cut through the music, deliberately loud. "I can't believe she actually thought we wanted her here. As if we'd willingly associate with a pathetic, orphaned Omega who can barely control her wolf." Luna turned to see Thea, surrounded by her usual coterie of admirers, all laughing at her cruel joke. The Alpha's daughter caught Luna's eye and smiled sweetly. "Oh, I'm sorry. Did you hear that? I was just explaining to everyone how we invited you out of pity. We never expected you'd actually show up and embarrass yourself." The laughter grew louder. Luna felt something inside her crack, not her resolve, but the last of her restraint. "Is that why you invited me, Thea? Out of pity?" Luna's voice carried clearly across the space between them. "Or was it because you're so insecure that you need someone to ridicule to feel important?" The laughter died instantly. Thea's face contorted with fury. "How dare you speak to me that way? Do you forget who I am?" "No," Luna replied calmly, "but perhaps you forget who you're supposed to be, a leader worthy of respect." not a bully who preys on those weaker than herself. Thea's eyes flashed amber as her wolf surged forward in rage. "You worthless little!" She lunged at Luna, but before she could reach her, the great doors of the hall swung open with a thunderous boom. A blast of cold air swept through the room, extinguishing several candles and causing the chandeliers to sway. Every wolf in the room froze, their attention drawn to the entrance, where a commanding figure now stood silhouetted against the night sky. The Alpha King had arrived. The silence that fell over the grand hall was absolute. Even the musicians ceased playing, their instruments falling silent, all eyes fixed on the imposing figure who stood framed in the doorway, his powerful aura filling the room like a physical force. Alaric, Alpha, King of the Seven Territories, stepped into the light. He was taller than any wolf Luna had ever seen, with broad shoulders and the lean, powerful build of a predator. His hair was as black as midnight, falling in waves to his shoulders, contrasting sharply with eyes the color of Arctic ice. He wore no crown, needing none. Power radiated from him like heat from fire. Behind him stood his elite guard, 4 massive wolves whose vigilant gazes swept the room, assessing threats where there were none. No one would dare challenge the Alpha King, whose strength was legendary even among Alphas. Magnus hurried forward, dropping into a deep bow. "Your Majesty, we are honored by your presence. Welcome to the Northern Territory." Alaric acknowledged the greeting with a slight nod, his expression impassive as he surveyed the gathering. "Rise, Magnus. I trust the preparations for the Blood Moon ritual are complete." "Yes, Your Majesty. Everything is ready for tomorrow night's ceremony." Magnus gestured toward the crowd. "Please enjoy the hospitality of my pack. We have prepared a feast worthy of your station." The Alpha King's gaze continued to sweep the room, passing over faces both familiar and unknown. "I'm sure it will be adequate." The subtle insult wasn't lost on Magnus, whose smile tightened, but he maintained his deferential posture. "May I introduce my daughter, Thea? She has been eagerly anticipating your arrival." Thea stepped forward in her crimson gown, executing a perfect curtsy. "Your Majesty, it is the greatest honor to welcome you to our territory." Her voice was honey-sweet, her eyes lowered in a show of submission that fooled no one who truly knew her. Alaric barely glanced at her. "Thank you." His dismissive tone caused Thea's smile to falter momentarily before she recovered. "Perhaps Your Majesty would care to dance. The Blood Moon's energy already stirs our wolves." Before the Alpha King could respond, his attention shifted. Luna, who had been standing quietly at the edge of the crowd, felt his ice-blue gaze lock onto her with an intensity that made her breath catch. For a heartbeat that seemed to stretch into eternity, their eyes met across the crowded room. Something flickered in the Alpha King's expression: surprise, perhaps, or curiosity. Then, to everyone's astonishment, he moved away from Thea and Magnus. Cutting a path directly toward Luna, the crowd parted before him like water, whispers erupting in his wake. Luna stood frozen, unable to move, as the most powerful wolf in the 7 territories approached her with purposeful strides. He stopped before her, towering over her slight frame. Up close, Luna could see the faint scars that marked his face badges of battles won and enemies defeated. His scent enveloped herpine forests after rain, mountain air, and something wild and untamed that made her inner wolf stir restlessly. "You," he said, his deep voice resonating through her very bones. "What is your name?" Luna swallowed hard, acutely aware that every eye in the room was fixed upon them. "Luna, Your Majesty." "Luna," he repeated, as if testing the sound of it on his tongue. "You're an Omega." It wasn't a question, but Luna nodded anyway, fighting the instinct to lower her eyes. Something told her this wolf valued directness over submission. "Yes, Your Majesty." A murmur rippled through the watching crowd. Magnus hurried forward, his face a mask of barely concealed alarm. "Your Majesty, please don't concern yourself with her. She's just our pack's Omega of no importance whatsoever." Alaric didn't even look at the Northern Alpha. I will decide what concerns me. Magnus. His gaze remained fixed on Luna, studying her with an intensity that made her skin tingle. Tell me, Luna, he continued, ignoring the shocked silence around them. Why does your alpha speak of you with such dismissal? Luna hesitated, aware that her answer could bring severe consequences. But something in the Alpha King's unwavering gaze compelled honesty. I am an orphan, Your Majesty. My parents died when I was an infant. I have no family connections to elevate my status. And yet you stand here tonight, alone, among wolves, who clearly wish you elsewhere, wearing a dress that speaks of heritage and pride. His nostrils flared slightly, a dress that carries the scent of time and memory. Luna's hand unconsciously rose to touch her mother's pendant. It was my mother's, Your Majesty. Alaric's eyes followed the movement, noting the silver crescent at her throat. Something shifted in his expression, a recognition that Luna couldn't decipher. The Blood Moon Ball is a celebration of our kind's strength and unity, he said, his voice carrying throughout the silent hall. It seemed strange that a pack would invite one of their own, only to treat them with contempt. Thea stepped forward, her smile brittle. Your Majesty, you misunderstand. We included the Omega out of kindness, to make her feel welcome despite her limitations. Is that so? Alaric's tone was dangerously soft. He turned back to Luna. And do you feel welcome, little Omega? Luna met his gaze steadily. No, Your Majesty. I was invited as a joke, so the pack could mock me for daring to attend. Gasps echoed through the hall. No one had expected such boldness from an Omega, especially not before the Alpha King himself. Magnus's face darkened with fury. The Omega speaks out of turn, Your Majesty. She forgets her place. Her place, Alaric raised an eyebrow. And what place would that be, Magnus? Beneath your daughter's heel, the object of your pack's ridicule. Before Magnus could respond, Alaric turned to address the entire gathering. The Blood Moon is sacred to all wolves, Alpha, Beta, and Omega alike. Our ancestors understood what many have forgotten. A pack is only as strong as its weakest member. Those who mock their own reveal nothing but their own insecurity. His gaze swept the room, causing many to lower their eyes in shame. Then, in a move that shocked everyone present, he extended his hand to Luna. Would you honor me with a dance, Luna, of the Northern Pack? The collective intake of breath was audible. Luna stared at his outstretched hand, certain she had misheard. Your Majesty, a hint of a smile touched his lips. A simple yes or no will suffice. Luna placed her trembling hand in his. Yes, Your Majesty. As Alaric led her to the center of the dance floor, the musicians scrambled to resume playing, striking up a haunting melody that seemed to capture the strange magic of the moment. Luna was acutely aware of hundreds of eyes, watching in disbelief as the Alpha King placed one hand at her waist and held her other hand in a gentle but firm grip. They will talk about this for generations, he murmured, guiding her into the first step of dance asterisk. They will talk about this for generations, he murmured, guiding her into the first steps of the dance. Why are you doing this? Luna whispered, finding courage in his unexpected kindness. Alaric's ice-blue eyes held secrets she couldn't begin to fathom. Perhaps I recognize something in you, Luna, something your pack has been too blind to see. As they moved across the floor in perfect synchrony, Luna felt a strange connection forming between them. If their wolves recognized each other on a level beyond conscious understanding. The Alpha King danced with a grace that belied his imposing stature. Leading her through complex steps, she somehow knew instinctively. Your mother's pendant, he said, quietly, as they turned. The silver crescent. Do you know its significance? Luna shook her head. Only that it was precious to her. It is the mark of the Moonshadow bloodline, lineage thought to have died out decades ago. His eyes studied her face with new intensity. A lineage known for producing wolves with rare gifts. Luna's heart raced. I don't understand. You will, he promised. But not here. Not tonight. As the music reached its crescendo, Alaric executed a final turn that brought Luna back to face him, their bodies closer than propriety dictated. For a moment that seemed suspended in time, something passed between them, a recognition, a promise, a destiny neither had anticipated. Then the music ended, and Alaric stepped back, raising Luna's hand to his lips in a gesture of respect that left the watching crowd stunned into silence. "Thank you for the dance, Luna of the Northern Pack," he said, his voice carrying clearly across the hall. "It seems this journey has proven more interesting than I anticipated." By morning, the news had spread through the Northern Territory like wildfire. Luna, the Pack's forgotten Omega, was actually the last surviving member of the legendary Moonshadow bloodline, cousin to the Alpha King himself. Wolves, who had laughed at her now, couldn't meet her eyes. Those who had ignored her existence suddenly found urgent reasons to introduce themselves. The Pack's hierarchy had been appended overnight, leaving everyone scrambling to adjust to the new reality. "How does it feel?" old Mara asked as she helped Luna dress for the Blood Moon ceremony in a gown of silver that matched her wolf's fur. "To be recognized for who you truly are." Luna gazed at her reflection, barely recognizing the confident woman who stared back. "Strange. I'm still the same person I was yesterday. But now they see you," Mara said, with a knowing smile. "That's the difference." Outside, the Pack gathered for the ceremony. Luna spotted Thea, standing with her friends, her usual arrogance replaced by uncertainty. Magnus hovered nearby, his diplomatic smile strained as he greeted visiting dignitaries. When Luna emerged from the main house, a hush fell over the crowd. She walked with her head high, no longer the cowering Omega, but a wolf who had found her power. At the center of the sacred circle stood Alaric, resplendent in ceremonial attire that emphasized his status as Alpha King. "The blood moon rises," Alaric announced, his voice carrying across the clearing. "Tonight, we renew the bonds between our territories and celebrate the return of the Moonshadow line, thought lost, now found." His gaze found Luna, and he extended his hand. "Luna, daughter of Lyra, niece of Queen Selene, rightful heir to the Moonshadow gifts, step forward." Luna moved to his side, acutely aware of the hundreds of eyes watching her every move. Gone was the invisible Omega. In her place stood a wolf of legend. "For generations, a prophecy has been passed down," Alaric continued. "When the Alpha King unites with the last Moonshadow under the blood moon, 1,000 years of peace will follow." As the moon rose, its surface turning deep red, Alaric and Luna stood at the center of the sacred circle. The ritual was ancient, a binding, not of marriage, but of alliance, a union of bloodlines and powers. When Alaric's knife cut his palm, and then Luna's, joining their blood as they clasped hands, a surge of energy pulsed through the clearing. Luna felt her wolf rise to meet it, her power flowing freely for the first time. Around them, wolves gasped as a silver light emanated from Luna, meeting and twining with the darker energy that flowed from Alaric. Where the energies met, they formed a swirling pattern that rose toward the blood moon like a beacon. "The prophecy is fulfilled," old Mara announced. "The Alpha King and the Moonshadow are united. Let all territories recognize this bond and the peace it brings." One by one, the Alphas of the 7 territories knelt, acknowledging the fulfillment of the ancient prophecy. Even Magnus, his face a study in conflicting emotions, bent his knee. Later, as the celebration continued, Luna found a moment of quiet with Alaric. "What happens now?" she asked, still absorbing the monumental changes. "Now you take your rightful place, not as an Omega, but as the Moonshadow ambassador. Your gifts will help heal the divisions between territories." Between ranks, Luna looked back at the celebration, at Thea's shattered confidence, at Magnus's uncertainty, at the wolves, who now watched her with awe rather than contempt. "They invited me as a joke," Luna mused. Yet, the Alpha King stood beside the Omega and shocked the Pack. Perhaps there's a lesson in that for all wolves. What lesson would that be? Alaric asked. Luna smiled, feeling the power of her heritage flowing through her veins. That true strength isn't in domination, but in dignity. That kindness isn't weakness, but courage. And that sometimes the one you mock today may be the one who saves you tomorrow. As the blood moon reached its zenith, casting its crimson light over the gathered wolves, Luna felt a sense of completion she had never known before. The orphaned Omega had found her family, her power, her purpose, and the pack that had invited her as a joke would never forget it.